This is the Sisterhood Society podcast, where three sisters talk life, food, fashion, kids, and everything in between. Become part of our sisterhood where everyone is welcome at our table. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Sisterhood Society podcast. We are so excited to be back and back with a book club episode because that's always the most fun. In my mind, if you guys didn't hear, the book that Tara chose this month was Greenlight by Matthew Mcconaughey, which is a memoir.
So first and foremost, the reason I chose this one is I've always loved Matthew McConaughey. I love his voice, but I also love his acting. And so when we were in Florida, we went to a bookstore called Sundog Books that Kate really likes. And the gal that was working there, her and Kate were like nerding out on like all these books. And I checked out shortly after that. But before exiting the premises, she said, if you want a good autobiography, that his is really good. And so that had kind of stuck with me. So when we started this, his was one I had not listened to and or read yet. And so that was the one that I went with. But we were talking about, before we got started, Whit actually read it on Kindle. And you and I listened to it on Audible. Yeah. So we were kind of just talking through the differences between the two. I was saying the thing that I liked about listening to it on Kindle, this comes back to the Sundog situation, is he does such a great job of narrating it, because a lot of people that narrate their own autobiographies just literally read it. They're adding in some intonation, but they're not necessarily adding, like, I felt like I was listening to a story. Yeah. Like, he does such a great job of really responding and reacting to the writing as if he's talking to you in a conversation.
Yeah, he wrote it very conversationally.
Yeah.
So if you're reading the book, you get a lot of his like handwritten notes and poems and things like that, which is what I did. I was reading the book, and so I didn't get to hear it in his voice, but you can kind of like hear his voice in the way he writes. Mm-hmm. But there are some things that I was like, this probably would have made more sense if I heard him speak it. Because there were some things that I'm like, it's hard for me to understand like where he was going with that and like where he was putting the emphasis on the sentence and that kind of thing.
Well, and he kind of changes his voice according to like the people talking and things like that too. So you do really feel like you're listening to a narration of a book. But the gal from Sundog also said that it was really good to have both, because she loved listening to him narrate because of his, his voice is so soothing and he's very entertaining to listen to. But then with the book, you're getting all of the handwritten notes and the pictures and things like that you miss out on having it on the Kindle side or the Audible side.
The synopsis. Should we do just like a brief overview, of like what it was?
I thought overall he basically kind of just takes it from like growing up and like how he was raised, which I thought was extremely interesting, his growing up years. But then it just kind of takes you through, how he essentially gets to Hollywood and his experience, with the different movies that he's had, and then essentially where he's at today. And so I thought it was like excellent. I thought he did a really, really good job.
It was really like anecdotal, like each kind of portion of his life, he had like little stories with like that ended in some life lesson. Those were confusing to me. I was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're like, what are you trying to say?
But it also makes sense as to like,
I'm sorry, what?
How those different things shaped him to who he is today. I thought.
It's just he has a very interesting way of like viewing the world, and I'm just kind of like, I don't understand what was so impactful about that moment for you. Like
the
there was
story about him building the treehouse in the middle of the night was the craziest thing. Where he said it was like 100-story treehouse or something.
It was like 31, wasn't it? Like it was 31 stories.
It was something huge. Yes.
I'm like, what on earth?
And he had to like steal the plywood first and then go build it, but he would like escape his house. I think one of the things I like remember as such a poignant thing that he would talk about was one, which I found applicable to us. One, you see an actor's life and you don't really know the ins and outs of how they get the jobs and how successful they are. And he even said how much he got paid in some of those, like how much he made. But like some of his first movies we're setting him up to be a specific type of actor. And then when he was talking about how like it's at some point in his life he took a break and he like went back to Texas and took a break and was like, I need to like almost rebrand myself, and I'm not going to say yes to the opportunity until it's absolutely what I want for my life. And instead of just jumping at, because I think he kind of got put in the rom-com category and he didn't want to, like he wanted to be in these more serious roles like he's done in the past 10
He said he wanted to tell stories that meant something to him, even though the rom-com was easy and it was giving him the life that he, you know, wanted. He wanted something that essentially was more challenging for him.
Right.
What I thought was super interesting though is that he took a break from, you know, for 2 years to essentially do that rebrand, and was getting offers, and he got one romantic comedy where they kept coming back, and I think they got up to like $15 million or something like that as their offer, and he still turned it down. And he was saying it's such a huge risk in Hollywood because basically it's like out of sight, out of mind. So to take 2 full years off to just wait for a script to come that wasn't that it's really interesting.
And that's the
thing,
I
thought that was really interesting.
I was going to say, I don't think you think of him now anymore as a rom-com actor because of that.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't realize, I guess he had done so many. I mean, I guess like The Wedding Planner, and he had done Failure to Launch, and he had done
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
How to Lose a Guy, yeah.
Oh, and then he did the one in Australia, like where with him and Kate Hudson, where they were like searching for gold.
Oh yeah,
Fool's
Gold.
Fool's Rush. Oh,
yeah, something. I don't know.
And so, but yeah, I guess in my head I hadn't like deemed him as a romantic comedy, but I guess looking back, that makes sense.
Yeah, well, and also if those are the only scripts you're getting, you know, it makes sense that that's where it was coming from. I want to talk a little bit about his upbringing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I was sitting there reading that and my mind was like blown. I'm like, this is like abusive, but they're also like Christian, but they're also like okay with stealing. And they're also okay with drinking,
so weird,
and beating up on each other. And I was just kind of like, I don't understand this.
And they had more respect for each other to stand up to the fight than to stand down from one. Like,
yeah,
there was
I was
just a
kind
lot
of
like backward stuff.
Yeah, everything seemed backwards. I was like, I don't get this. It's not like a conservative home.
Yeah.
It's also not like a crazy non-conservative home. I just couldn't place it, and I was just like,
his parents being married 3 times and divorced twice to each other. Like,
it was so weird. And his dad beating him up or beating his brother up.
His brother.
I don't know. The whole thing was just so weird. And then like the night where he went out drinking with him and his dad's friends.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, why is everybody I like the overall upbringing was really confusing. And then I was like, how did he come out of that normal?
Yeah.
Like that was a very strange upbringing, but he came out of it totally fine. Well, I mean, everybody's not totally fine.
He's
I guess,
like the epitome of someone who should write a memoir because he has such crazy stories that you're like, no one else has a life story like this. Like, even Mom the other day, she's like, you guys should write a book about your life. And I was like, I don't feel like we have as crazy stories as like our dad could have like the most insane memoir ever. Like, he's been almost murdered like twice, and like he's just got like so much that's happened in his life where you're like, whoa. I mean, Dad's life story is actually like really wild, which makes sense why now he just wants to smoke cigars and watch Netflix because he's gone through a lot, you know? Like, I get it. He's probably like, I'm done, guys. I've seen it all. I'm good right here in this recliner.
With my saltwater taffy.
And Fresca.
In his new mini fridge
that he buys in bulk.
He loves that mini fridge. It's like such a funny, like my mom was like, that was like the best gift because
it's so funny.
He's obsessed with it. But
we were like, what can we get him that would require the least amount of getting up from his favorite chair?
I was like, he needs a set of drawers to stick all of his food and then a mini
You know
fridge.
what I was thinking about though? I think I've talked about this on the podcast. So I'm sorry if this is a repeat, but I've definitely told you guys this before. But in November, I joked about how I was telling Tara that Brian is a really fun hang because I hung out with him outside of the context of our family. We went golfing with our dad and my husband Phil, and my dad was like getting ready and like going to the pro shop and like putting his shoes on. And the whole time I was thinking, he does this 6 days a week in the heat. Like, how could someone possibly think this is fun every day, 6 days a week? You know, probably like 9 months of the year, because he doesn't golf like in the winter.
He only golfs 3 days a week now.
He just takes Thursdays off because that's the day he does the stretch lab. But and he said he has.
But the club is closed on
errands.
Mondays.
Yeah, so maybe, but he does golf every other, so maybe it's 5 days a week. But it doesn't
He only
matter.
golfs Tuesday. He told me it's like Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, or something like that.
No, he
Tuesday,
definitely
Wednesday,
golfs
Saturday,
Sundays.
Sunday. I think
Guys,
it's
it doesn't matter. We're getting stuck on semantics.
Semantics. But I was just thinking. But then the other day after the farmer's market, it was like hot as can be. And he was like, can you imagine golfing in this every single day? Like, now you understand why I'm so tired. And I was like, honestly, I get it. Like, I never thought about it until now. But like, even being at the pool yesterday for 3 hours, I was like exhausted when I got home, and I did nothing but just like float on a raft. And he's like exercising. So I kind of understand the lifestyle post golf, but he is like literally living like, we need to become Dave Huber. Like, that's really what this podcast should aim us to be, like full-time golfers, except I want to get into pickleball. Have you guys seen?
When Brian and I dated, he always used to say, "It's good to be a Huber." That's what his tag phrase was.
So really, we need to get to a place where we can work 4 days a week. We can have leisure time on the other 3
Stretch
days.
labs on Thursdays.
Stretch labs on Thursday.
Kate can take up pickleball. I'll keep entertaining.
Yeah, I
We'll
really want to play
read.
pickleball. Everyone's doing it, and I just feel out of like the loop right now.
You realize it's like a smaller version. It's like ping pong and tennis mixed together, right?
Yeah, I think it
Okay.
looks really fun, and I want the skirts. Like, I want to buy the skirts to wear. Like, I really just
It's
want
just
a
more
pickleball
interested
outfit.
in the fashion.
Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to the pickleball outfits.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, everyone like looks really cute doing it, and they have like pickleball leagues, and I just think it looks really fun, and like you can like be in shape. It could be like part of your 45 minutes a day of working out.
I'm sure it would be a good workout.
Yeah. Anyways, what were we talking about?
Matthew Mcconaughey's
The
book.
Got very off topic.
Anyways,
Somehow led into pickleball.
So the next thing we had written down was just like surprising takeaways. I will say the part of the book that I found like a little odd was the whole like floating down the Amazon. That part
Yeah.
to me was a little strange. Just to like chase after a dream.
I noticed he just like up and goes into the wilderness
Yeah.
all the time. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, I'm just not that introspective where I need that like
Yeah.
alone time in a random country to really just bring myself back
Yeah.
to who I am.
the
and, like,
Amazon
the-
whole section was just wild. Like,
And the like
But he
sumo
seemed-
wrestling and like
he
the
seemed
middle.
to come back and really hold on to those bongos.
Yeah.
You know, you just really love those bongos and being naked with his bongos. And I was just like, okay, whatever. So that's what you brought back from Africa.
I did think it was funny that he went to jail and refused to put on a pair of pants and went naked. I was like,
was
you're
very
at that
strange.
point, you're famous. So
right.
One thing that really annoyed me, and maybe it was because I was reading it, but the man really loves a list. Like he's just like,
Yeah.
I played harder, I sang louder, I was naked longer, I was blah blah blah, and just on and on
He
for
did.
paragraphs. And it's just like, I get it.
but
Move on.
I feel like when you're listening to him talk about it, it's not near because
It's not as
I was still
annoying, I would
I was gonna
agree.
say it the way that he talks, it just like
Yeah.
feels more freely
I
written.
think
Yeah.
that may have been like one of the differences. But man, reading
he
it, I
did.
was just like, for the love,
There was
like
lots
it
of
is
lists.
another list. And that's how he ended the book. And I was just like, oh my god.
I also think that I feel like the suggestion of when to listen to it, it's actually like a really good thing to do with a spouse, like on a road trip, which is how I listen to it, because I feel like it's not like a girly book. You know what I mean? Like it's not
Yeah.
something that just you would enjoy. Whereas I feel like a lot of the recommendations, like I don't feel like Phil would read half the stuff that I read. Though, Whitney, I don't know if I told you this, but Phil told me he would read one book a year that I love, like my favorite book of the year. And so
Oh, no.
I made him read Verity, and he read it, which
Wow.
Phil hasn't read a book in like 6 years. And so it was like really impressive. But that could be for another story, another day. He's team, wait, hang on. Wait, I'm trying to mix up between team manuscript and what's the other one? What's the other team?
Lie or something, right?
Team letter?
No.
Yeah, it's letter versus manuscript.
Oh, yeah.
So he's team letter.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I'm team manuscript.
Me too.
Just because I want it to be the manuscript.
I can't tell you what that means because if you haven't read Verity, it spoils it. But
yeah.
I was going to say we actually listened to it on the way home from Nashville to Bloomington for Christmas this last year. And we were kind of like looking at a way to pass the time. And I was like, I have this audiobook I've been wanting to listen to. It's Matthew Mcconaughey. And he's like, oh, we can try it for a chapter. And then I would be like, okay, you want me to turn it off? And he's like, you can keep it on. And every chapter I was like, do you want me to turn it off? He's like, oh, we can keep going, to the point where we finished the whole thing. And at the end, he was like, I really enjoyed that. Like, I was shocked that Phil really liked it, which was
well, and he's funny, like, you know, as he's talking and stuff like that, and he's very engaging. Like I do feel like he is a talented storyteller for sure.
Right.
But yeah, overall I just thought listening to hear someone how they got into Hollywood, because I always find that story is interesting.
Agreed.
Because it's such a different way of life than like the way I've been raised. Yeah. I mean, it's such a small percentage of people that actually make it. So I always find that story to be really interesting of how people got to Hollywood and or made their way. And so.
Yeah. And I think the encouraging thing about it, when you look at it from an entrepreneur perspective, I think at least for me, in the last 7 years that we've been entrepreneurs, there's been a lot of times where it's easy to feel embarrassed or shameful about things that didn't work out. And instead of looking at them as part of your journey, feeling like, I can't believe that happened, I'm so embarrassed that I had failure. But when you look at anybody's life, like, there's so much of that. You know what I mean? There's so many changes or things you can look at. And instead of being shameful of them, just being like, that's just part of my journey, part of my story. And I feel like looking at someone who's so successful, you wouldn't expect that. But even like Jeff Bezos has so many stories like that. You know what I mean? Where things that he tried, or Apple, you know what I mean, tried so many different things that didn't work out, they pivoted probably on such a much bigger scale than we've experienced. But I think it's encouraging to know that like everyone has failures, and I think that's really what makes you stronger as a person, and the things that you learn actually makes your character stronger. I would say.
I think the other thing I liked about his book is that which he always seems this way, but he doesn't seem like somebody who has been changed by fame.
Agreed.
Like just the whole like driving cross country and staying in like, you know, campgrounds and things like that, and like interacting with the locals and still doing stuff with like his old neighbors in Austin, or like the was it his coach that he recently went to a game with? I was trying to remember who he said he went to, but just all of that. Like I feel like it's so easy for people to kind of lose touch with their roots a little bit. And I felt like he seems very down to earth, which is the way he comes across. But to hear it in the book, it seems like that he's very
It was really endearing how much he loves people and their stories. And I was like, I can't say I'm one to love people and their stories, you know, like I don't really take an interest in other people's lives. And to keep people at arm's length, you know, I don't let anybody in.
And that is why Aunt Kara is your only best friend.
Yes, it is. But I like it that way. But he goes around and he like gathers all their stories and thinks they're fascinating, and then makes like a book about it. You know, it's just really interesting how he, like, especially being a celebrity, like you mentioned, he's still willing to put himself out there. Like he has no fear of like getting entangled with other people, which I thought was really interesting.
I did find it interesting that once he stopped the rom-com stuff, I don't like his career to me is less memorable. Like the others ones that he's done since then, I don't know if I had even seen most of them.
Yeah.
Like when he kind of switched from that.
He even said they weren't box office hits, but they were like his favorite things he's done.
Which I thought
like
was
the
interesting.
Dallas Boys Club. Is that what the bigger one was?
The one about the HIV I've seen.
Yeah, Buyers Club.
Yeah,
Dallas Buyers Club. But then I went and looked at a list, and there were several of them I didn't even know existed, and or that he was in them.
Yeah.
Because he's done Sing and Thing too, which obviously those are kids movies, but there was there was one that was like a military movie, I think, or some type of action movie that I hadn't.
Oh, he did the Interstellar, I think, right?
Yes.
I think I've seen that
that's
one.
And then he did Magic Mike.
That was a big movie too.
I think he was just a side character in that one.
But yeah, I never saw Magic Mike, but I thought that was really like a Channing Tatum thing. I didn't remember him to be in it.
I think that's why he was a side character, or I think he was a side character because wasn't it Channing Tatum? I don't know. I haven't seen him, but.
So anyway, I just thought it was interesting as a whole to listen to his experience. And then I was telling Whit, the other thing in my head, it feels like he's been around longer. I guess in my head, like the 90s doesn't feel like that long ago. So he's technically been around like 25, 30 years. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he got started with those were like his first movies, like what was it? Rosemont High?
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Ridgemont High. That was really his first one. And then the first, what was the John Grisham book? Why can't I not think of the name of the one? His first one that he did with Sandra Bullock, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of the name of the one, but the fact that really the Wedding Planner and some of those were like some of his first gigs is strange to me because in my head, I guess I was thinking he had been around longer before that.
I thought it was interesting too that his hair grew back. He was saying that he lost his hair and it was thin in the Wedding Planner, and now he's got like a crazy full head of hair. I was like, how did that work? That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. I also thought it was funny that he had to cut his mom off for a while because she outed him on hard copy.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that story. It's so funny.
And she was listening to it in the background, and he was like, "Mom, the hard copy episode." She's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." He's like, "I can hear it on the TV." But I feel like that would be such a weird experience, like to have to get used to that your friends and family who knew you all along are now, probably getting hit up by paparazzi and or like publications to try to get information.
They're also liking the fame.
Yeah. So
that's wild.
To wrap up, what are our overall thoughts? I feel like we've kind of been talking about it already, but
I definitely would recommend listening to it because I feel like his voice is very soothing. And like I said, he's extremely interesting to listen to. So I loved the Audible version of it. And overall, I mean, if I had to give it a rating, I would definitely give it a 4.5 or 5 out of 5. I thought it was great. I thought it was well written. I felt like it was very much him. It didn't feel stuffy at all. Sometimes other autobiographies, like I said, when you're listening to the narration, it just sounds like they're reading the book rather than really telling you the story about the book that they wrote.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like I probably would have liked it more had I listened to the Audible version. So I give it a 4.5 out of 5. I will say his stories were really interesting and they kept me invested. And I wanted to know how it was ending. I do feel like maybe some of the concepts that he was talking about, reading them versus hearing him talk about it probably would have made a little bit more sense in my head. So yeah, I give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah. Okay. Same.
Also the list, I just couldn't get beyond the list. I was just like, oh gosh, more lists of things that he keeps rambling on about. But yeah, other than that.
We thought we'd wrap up by giving you guys like maybe one book suggestion each that we really loved, and then I will show you guys the next book pick.
Do you guys want to just do the book suggestions?
Tara hasn't read any books.
Tara's like, I have read 0 books.
Mm-hmm.
I need to pull up my Kindle app or my Goodreads and see what
you also need to reveal the next book.
Yes, I have it sitting right here.
Okay.
Which I feel like for Tara's sake, I feel like you're gonna really like it.
You think I'm going to?
Yeah, I do. I don't know why. I mean, I just feel like you will. Okay.
So as far as books that I've read recently that I've loved, the Inheritance Game series.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it down.
That was so
the book.
fun.
And what's unusual about this too, book 2 was better than book 1. It was so good. I think there's a book 3 coming, right?
Yes, it's called The Final Gambit, and it comes out August 31st of this year.
I cannot wait. So the Inheritance Games.
I feel like Tara would really like the Inheritance Games because I feel like you like. I feel like you like whodunit type of mystery, books, whereas like obviously fantasy is not your thing because you don't like mystical things. But I feel like when it's like a guessing game, it's really fun.
I do from a standpoint of like if it's an actual, like I could watch marathons of Dateline, but I don't know if I would like it in a book format unless it was a true story.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
She doesn't love fiction. We got to remember that.
Maybe you won't like my book pick then. So, I Sunday, literally in one sitting, read Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren.
I love that one.
And it is just, oh my gosh, it's so good. I don't even know how to like wrap it up, but to make a long story short, this girl's mom dies when she's 10, and her mom writes her dad letters of how to raise her as like a young woman growing up. And one of the key points she says is like, if she's having a stressful week or struggling with school, take her out of town and have like a family weekend. And so her dad takes that really seriously and buys a lake house. And of course, the neighbors at the lake house have 3 boys, and she connects with one of the boys because they both love to read. And they turn this big closet in their house into a library. And so they connect over like literature, and they kind of just like grow up together. And obviously romance ensues, but there's something that happens that like disconnects them for 10 years, and they reconnect in the city when they're in their 30s. I just thought the story was really sweet, and there was quotes. Like I sent Whitney a picture of one of the quotes, and I was like, I'm dead. Like I literally was so invested in the story I couldn't put it down, which romance doesn't always do that to me. I feel like I'm more that way with thrillers. Whereas romance I can kind of like take as I go and like pick it up here and there, but this one was just, it really caught my heart, and I loved it.
There's certain romances that I like, the ones that actually have a story, and it's not just written about their love. Like I love the ones that actually have a story, and it's like their love is a subplot. And this one is definitely one of them, and it's so cute. They have like, whenever they're like talking to each other, they're like, what's your word? Or like,
what's your favorite word? Yeah.
What's your favorite word? And they like, usually the word relays back to like their certain moment.
What they're feeling, yeah.
And it's just
so cute.
I love it so much. It's written so well. Like all the little details and things like that. And then how it's written, like their conversations are so, like when they're little, their conversations are like little people conversations, and as they get older, they get more like interesting and intricate. And I don't know, I just love that book. It's probably one of my faves. Probably the best one those two have ever written. Their other books are not as good. That one's the best one they've ever written for sure.
Interesting. Okay, we're ready for the book reveal. I'm very excited, and I have to spoil something really quick just so Whitney doesn't go and buy this. I did get this for you for your birthday, so don't go buy it. Right. I just remembered it, and I was like, oh no, I hope she doesn't go buy it on Kindle. But it is The Thursday Murder Club.
Oh my gosh, I've been wanting to read this.
And it sounds so cute. Okay, so it's about a retirement village. And
Were you inspired by your day?
Yeah, I'm trying to be retired at 30. So this is what it is. But the 3 main characters in the book meet, and they pretend that they're meeting to talk about Spanish or Japanese opera, but they're actually working on cold cases together.
Oh.
And they find
Japanese opera. That's so random.
Isn't that so specific?
Like that's your cover story?
Yeah,
because that's so believable.
I know. They said
and like why not like Austrian opera, or like, you know, a place that's known for opera?
I know.
I didn't even know there was Japanese opera.
They call themselves the Thursday Murder Club, and they said a local developer is found dead with a mysterious photograph left next to their body, and the friends suddenly find themselves in the middle of their first live case. They might be senior citizens, but they are cleverer than most. As the bodies begin to pile up, can our unorthodox but brilliant gang catch the killer before it's too late? There is actually a sequel to this too. But Richard Osman, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, is the author. So if you guys want to read along, I feel like this is like the category or genre would be called cozy mystery. It's like cutesy, fun, but like keeps you on your toes because you're trying to figure out who did it. And I just
let's just hope it's not $25 on Audible, because the last one,
is.
The mystical one, was like $25.
I'm sorry about that. That one was a hit and a miss.
This one is only 340 pages, so it's not like overly long either. So it's like a run-of-the-mill general page amount. But this is really famous on YouTube and TikTok. It's like everyone raves about how much they love it, and no one rates this low. Like, I've never seen a negative review about it. And I feel like when I'm picking something for the podcast, the last time I picked one that was like a debut, and obviously we all know how you guys felt about it. So
I like that one. I mean, there were
okay.
things that like I didn't like, but I like that one.
So I'm trying to pick more mainstream for a little while to see what we feel. We could do a romance too, but I just feel like mysteries have more to talk about, which is fun for the podcast. So anyways, that will wrap up the next episode. We will be back on a regular scheduled program now that we are back to the basement days, and we'll have more content for you guys. So we love you, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
See ya.